Professor Herman Schnitzel, the mayor of Turkey Hollow. Professor, you look terrible.
Oh, don't talk about it. They told me to play golf. It's a good pastime, they said. Do no, Weber. If it gets in your blood, you don't know when to stop. I come home tonight late for supper, and my wife, she started to raise the roof. I says, now, don't get excited. I had enough of my own trouble this morning. I got up late, and I was on my way over to pick up Harry. I got a flat tire. When I got over for Harry was late. Then when we got to the golf course, they was all standing there playing. We couldn't get on to tee off. Finally, we did get on to tee off, and we kicked off of there and got on the second hole, the third hole, the fourth hole, and up at the fifth hole, don't hurry up and get a heart attack and die right there. Oh, from then on, I had my troubles. Hit the ball, drag Harry. Hit the ball, drag Harry. Yeah, I'm an overboard. But you know, I got other hobbies. Well, I have other hobbies besides golf. I do a lot of reading history. I don't know whether you know it, but you know the real story about Paul Revere. He's that Pennsylvania Dutchman that got up in the middle of the night to go horseback riding. And when he was clippity-clopping down the road, you know, he come to the first house, the woman lifted the second-story window, and he hollered up, "Is your husband home?" She says, "Yes." Well, she says, "Tell him to get his pants on, the British are coming." And he clippity-clops on down to the next house. And the woman lifts up the second-story window. He says, "Is your husband home?" She says, "Yes." "Well, tell him to get his shotgun and come out. The British are coming." He gets down to the third house, and the woman lifts up the window. He says, "Is your husband home?" She says, "No." Paul Revere says, "Whoa!" But you know, my grandpappy, he likes to ride. Well, not horses so much as he likes to ride buses. And he got on the bus some time ago. Well, it was around 5 o'clock. Everything was full. He had a seat. There was no more empty seats. And right alongside of him stood a beautiful blonde. Yeah, one of those decided blondes. She had only decided that morning. And Grandpappy says, "Young lady, I'm an old man." He says, "You can sit on my lap. It's all right." So she did. She sat down. And the bus started off as a jerk. Yeah, Grandpappy was on. And it went around the turns, links and rights, and over the gutters, and over the blutzes, and up the hill and down the hill. Pretty soon, Grandpappy says, "Young lady, you better get up. I'm not as old as I thought I was." I'll never forget the last time Grandpappy got married. He was 93 then already, 93, and he married a girl only 20 years old. But that didn't last too long. No, in about a week's time, he died. You know, it took 3 undertakers 5 days just to get the smile off his face. Now, imagine something like that. But before he got married the first time, he went down to get his marriage license. When they were down there, he met 2 people that they knew well from the Pennsylvania Dutch country. And you know, the intermarry. Cousins marry cousins. And he heard the clerk talking to this one couple, and the clerk asked the fellow, he says, "What's your name?" He says, "Jacob Stolzfuss." And he says to the girl, "What's your name?" She says, "Hilda Stolzfuss." The clerk says, "Relations?" She says, "Just once. We couldn't wait." All the Schnitzels got married except Sam. He was the black sheep. Sam was the drinking uncle. He always claimed he never drank anything stronger than pop. But do not let a pop drink anything, you know. One day I was down in the big city, and who did I see when I walked up the street there? Sam Schnitzel, laying on the sidewalk, face down, scraping and scratching like the devil. I said, "Sam, what's wrong?" He says, "Get away." He says, "I'll get up this wall if it takes all night." And I thought, now's my time, I better preach to him. So there was a big building across the street all lit up. And I set Sam up. I said, "Sit up here, I want to show you something." So I says, "You see that building over there with all them lights?" He says, "Yes." Well, I says, "That's a brewery. Now, how in the world do you expect to drink all they make?" Sam says, "I can't drink all they make, but I'm sure the devil got them working nights." Now, imagine something like that. But you know, the army straightened him out. I was also in the army. I was in the war, too. boat. After we were examined, he says, you're on your way to France right now. And on the way down to the dock where we got on the boat, we had a sergeant who stood up. And before that son of a gun could holler halt, 12 of us was overboard. And I was the last one to crawl out. Just then the major came along. He says, fall in. I says, do know what, I just crawled out. But you know, I'll never forget that day if I get to be 196. There's a lot of men in here, and I know they got mother-in-laws. And sometimes what the men say about their mother-in-laws, you can't even print in a book. Yeah, but I can only talk good about my mother-in-law. Because when I left for France, she was one of the last ones to see me off. And I could see her there yet, standing on the dock, looking up at me on the ship. And she held something in her delicate little claws. And she says, look, Herman. She always called me Herman. That was my name. She says, look, Herman, I bought a gold star. Don't disappoint me. Then they told me I was going to go by boat all the way to France, but that was a lie right there. I didn't go by boat. I went by rail. I was hanging on it. Some smart aleck says, what's the matter, buddy? You got a weak stomach. I says, a weak stomach? Well, I'm throwing it as far as the rest of them. One night, the captain of the boat was in back of me. I didn't see him. All I heard him say is, I believe the moon's coming up. I says, say, aye, must that come up yet? But you know, one thing I must say, they fed us good on the boat. That they did. 6 meals a day, every day. 3 down, 3 up. And they told me when I get on the other side, I'd see a whole lot of nice French mademoiselles. Aye. All I saw was a couple of jackasses, and I got them. Yeah, 2 jackasses and an ammunition wagon. That was my job. Mule train Schnitzel, they called me. And one day I was driving around out there on nobody's land. Well, I guess it was nobody's. Nobody was there. And an airplane was flying around. He seen me down below, and he lets go a shooting crackle. And that comes down. Boom! There go the jackasses. He flew around some more, and lets go another shooting crackle. Boom! There goes the ammunition wagon. I got off then. And you know, while I was standing there, he lets go another shooting cracker, and that comes down and explodes right alongside of me. And right then and there, I done one of the most childish things. I started to run. And the fellow in back of me started to slip. I was running and he was slipping. He thought I was using fluid drive. Pretty soon we came up to a fella. I says, hey, buddy, have you got a cigarette? He says, yes, I got a cigarette, but I'm no buddy. He says, I'm the captain. Oh, well, I says, pardon me, I didn't know I was that far behind the lines. Well, he says, young fella, anybody that's this far back must be a coward. We can win this war without you. And they did, too. Well, then we went back to the United States, and when we was back here on the States, then we got a troop train to go home. And I'll never forget, we stopped at one town there to make repairs. And my other buddy looked out the window, and he says, well, here we are in my hometown. And he looked over, he says, that's my house over there. That's where my wife lives. And he went to the captain, he says, Captain, can I get off? He says, my wife lives over there. I want to stop. No, the captain says, we're only going to be here an hour. But he says, this won't take long. And he off, you know. He gave him an hour, he says, but come back right away. Well, the hour was up, he didn't come back. Well, the captain says, we got to go, and they started to pull out. And just as they got around the depot, you know, he come running after and caught the handles and jumped on, all out of ink. And the captain come back, he says, I told you to be back in an hour. He says, now you made yourself a lot of trouble. But he says, I couldn't help it, Captain. He says, when I got back there, she was taking a bath. Well, he says, it don't take an hour to take a bath. He says, no, but it took me an hour to dry off my clothing. But, no, No, not now, not now. Oh, all right. Oh, here's a special pronouncement from the management. Somebody lost a pocketbook. All this money in it? 3 20s, 2 10s, 2 5s, and 3 1s, and some change. Now, the girl back there, one of the waitresses, found it. Helen's her name, eh? Helen, yeah. Helen Hunt. Now, whoever lost his pocketbook can just go to Helen Hunt for it.